Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Thursday. It is the 13th day of October 2022. First of all, I want to apologize. It's apparently been having some acoustic issues on my videos lately, and I think it has. I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm trying something new this morning. It doesn't look any different, but I'm trying something new. Let me know how this sounds when you hear it. I'm sure you will. But I apologize. Some of you caught that there was some echo. I know the room I'm in is bigger, but it's the room I've been using for a while. So there were some other things. I got a couple of tricks to try to fix it. Today I'm using one of them. Let's see if this works. So I hope you're healthy and safe today. I hope your family is also healthy and safe. And I hope the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, and health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field and the first responders, whose job every day is to try to save lives, and those that make deliveries of food and water and other important things for our convenience and survival. Blessings also upon those that pick up garbage for us to keep streets, sidewalks, highways, parkways clean. And those also, double blessings on the men and women. Well, before I do that, blessings also upon, double blessings on the men and women that work to rescue and deliver and recover the teenagers and the children who are victims of child molestation and pedophilia. And also those people who are working to recover the victims of pornography and child pornography, the victims of prostitution and child prostitution, the victims of human trafficking and sex slavery, and double curses on the perpetrators, the perverts, and those profiteers who traffic in this human misery. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. There are nearly 600,000 men, women, and children in the United States without a roof over their head, and millions upon millions around the world in places like the Philippines, to even worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. There was a basketball game last night. The New York Knicks were in Indiana, and they played the Indiana Pacers in their third preseason game. The Knicks lost the game. They lost the game 109-100. But there were some interesting and important things I picked up from the game last night. I don't know if you saw it. First off, the Knicks seemed a little out of sync the whole night. It wasn't as bad with the first unit, but it was there. Jalen Brunson was a little out of sync. And he was 4 of 14 from the field. He had 8 rebounds. He had 3 assists. He had 2 turnovers. He had 11 points. He was +7. He didn't shoot the ball well. And as a whole, the whole starting 5 played pretty well. They were all plus. Barrett was +13. Randall +11. Mitchell Robinson +13. Evan Fournier +9. And of course, I mentioned Brunson +7. So they played very well. Good enough to win the game, certainly. But they were a little out of sync. And I believe, and I'm not, some of y'all gonna trip, but it's because I think Fournier was not with the group that long and hadn't fit with the group and hadn't got his footing yet. And he looked out of sync. He was 3 of 9 from the field. He had, like I mentioned, 8 points. He played 24 minutes. They were out of sync. And I'm not trying to say it was because Fournier is a bad player or because he shouldn't be starting. We went through that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying he just wasn't used to the group running with them in a game. Okay. And I think that would improve over time. Even though I still think Grimes should be the starter, that would improve over time. I also want to note that I feel like even though his stats weren't that great, the first 5 ran better with Cam Reddish in it last week than they ran with him for a year last night, but that's another story. But the first group played good enough to win. And this is the interesting thing. Even though they were off, they were not in sync, they were still beating pretty well the Indiana Pacers, who was in full strength and trying to win the game. Now, the second group, Bob Deep, actually lost the game. And if you actually watch what happened, Tom Thibodeau allowed them to lose the game. It was about 6 minutes left in the game. The Knicks had got into a 10-point lead, 94-84. But I could see that the second unit wasn't used to playing that many minutes in a row without a rest, even though they got into the game a little later than usual. And if it was a regular season game, I was thinking in my mind about 6 minutes. Actually, it was 8 minutes something left when they were up 10. And I figured Tom's going to play them another 2 minutes maybe and then get them out and put the final unit in there to close it out. And I think if it was the regular season, he would have did that. But last night, he kept them in. See, people want to talk about Tom Thibodeau not developing the players, so on and so forth, not playing the youth. But last night, he kept the five of Miles McBride, Emmanuel Quickly, Isaiah Hartenstein, Obi Toppin, and Cam Reddish. He kept them in pretty much the whole fourth quarter last night. Pretty much. And they did not play well. They did not play well. They weren't the usual dynamic mob deep that we normally would see. Now, part of that problem, and I know some of y'all going to hate me for it, was Quickly. He was 4 of 18 from the field. He was chucking. He was freezing out Deuce. His back was to Deuce most of the time on offense. He was not moving the ball well. Yes, he scored some big baskets. Yes, he made some big plays. But, he does that. But to me, they were missing, honestly, Derrick Rose, who sat last night. If they'd have had Derrick Rose, I think with the 3-guard lineup that I had talked about a few times already, with Rose, McBride, and Emmanuel Quickly, with Rose as the point guard, I think they'd have been better off. But it was a great learning experience for them. This is why you say, okay, it's preseason, it doesn't count, right? And Tom Thibodeau, I have to give him his props. He used it as a teaching moment to put them in a game situation where they had to hold a lead in the fourth quarter. Okay. Now they didn't hold it. There was some defensive breakdowns. There were some bad turnovers. There were some fouls. Hartenstein has a reputation of fouling a lot, and he did it last night. And he's going to do that during the season. Some of y'all didn't realize that, but coming from the Clippers, he had a foul problem. A young center, as I said, in the league. And so he has a little bit of problems staying out of foul trouble, which is why he's good for the second unit. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Quick was tossing up there was some bad shots. He threw up some bad shots, period, in the story. Okay. And because of that, now Toppin only scored 8. He was minus 20. He was 4 of 7 from the field. He had 2 rebounds. He had 1 steal. His stats don't look good, but I'm telling you, Obi Toppin is that player that needs a point guard. And it was so obvious last night. He needs a real point guard. If you put him out there with a guy that's a point guard, that's controlling the game, and he's running his back doors and he's running the floor, his overall game just gets better. Okay. And as I said, Quick is not a point guard. And he was trying to play that role in the fourth quarter. Deuce was standing on the side most of the time. Okay. If it was Derrick Rose out there and he would have demanded the ball and made sure that he was running things, I think they'd have probably won the game. But it was great that Derrick Rose wasn't there because these guys have to learn and develop. And this is the type of game in which you do that. I loved the fact that Thibs kept him out there. Like I said, I believe if it was a regular season game with about 6 minutes left, he would put the starters back in. And in this scenario, they would have held the lead because they were playing good enough, and they weren't even in sync, but they were better than Indiana's starting 5. They were better. Only Indiana was missing Tyrese Halliburton, but it seemed to me that the last time they played, Brunson had Halliburton's number. So I wasn't worried about Halliburton. It seemed like McConnell gave Brunson a harder matchup than Halliburton. And McConnell was playing and this is another thing. If you notice the game, the Knicks were very businesslike in their approach to the game. Very businesslike. Wasn't rah-rahing and doing all of that. Whereas Indiana, you think it was an NC2A game in the Final Four, the way they was acting. And it was a preseason game. Okay? And so that's all good. So I like the fact that the Knicks was using this basically as a glorified scrimmage when you come down to it. And he was playing that second unit, that is Tom, as I mentioned, almost the whole fourth quarter. So it was a really good teaching moment. After the game, of course, Thibs was letting them know they ain't no excuses. Y'all just lost the game, and that's what they need to hear. And so, yeah, you want the Knicks to win. There's always a sour taste in my mouth when they lose, even when it's preseason. But at the same time, I have to say it was a good teaching moment for that second unit and for you, because later on you're gonna come a time where you're gonna need them. You're gonna need them to help you pull out a game, and you use these moments to teach them to be ready in those times. Only thing is, I would have liked to have seen Deuce McBride run the point instead of being off guard. Actually, run the point instead of Emmanuel Quickly. That I found is a problem and could persist to be a problem because Quickly does that on a regular basis. When he's hitting his shots, he'll win a game for you. Emmanuel Quickly's that type of player when he's hitting his shot. But when he's shooting 4 of 18 and his defense isn't the greatest, he's gonna lose the game for you. Okay, he's gonna lose the game for you. So last night that whole five wasn't in sync. Their second five, their second unit, they got to get in sync. Like I said, they were missing Derrick Rose. Of course, we know Grimes was out too. And, he's going to need time to get back in a flow. But overall, even though they lost the game, I was happy with how Thibs managed the game. Now, the minutes for the starters, I found he kept them in a little off. I had to critique him a little bit. It was that. Like, Jalen Brunson almost played 30 minutes. I mentioned Fournier played 24. Mitchell Robinson played 23. Julius Randle played 25. RJ Barrett played 26. I like the Randle and RJ numbers. The 26 and a half, almost 27 minutes for RJ, 25, 26 minutes for Julius. And that was cool. But I thought, generally the game before this against Indiana, you had Mitchell Robinson playing about 22 minutes, 20 minutes. And then you had Hartenstein playing some minutes. And you gave some more to Jericho Sims. He only played 2 minutes last night. I wanted to see a little bit more balance there, even though I liked the way Mitch Rob controlled the paint last night. Both, obviously the offensive rebounds. He had 6 of them last night. He had 4 blocks. He was the block-less monster. He definitely was, like I said, protecting the rim. And they were out of sync, and they were still beating Indiana. This is against the Miles Turner that everybody was crying to get last year. So the Knicks lost the game, but I feel like they won some development last night, especially with the second unit. So I liked how Tom handled it overall. I can't complain or whine about them losing a preseason game. When he's trying to develop his players, like I said, and most of us understand, Derrick Rose is a very important piece to this team. Even though he's 34 years old, I don't want to depend on him too much. But in that second unit, in that 3-guard set that Tom was running, he's very important. And to me, that was the major thing. That's why they were, to me, is the minus of Derrick Rose while they were out of sync. And I'm not picking on Cam Reddish, but I'm feeling like if you put Derrick Rose in there for Cam and you ran that same 5 like you have been doing, they probably win that game. But again, this is development for Cam. It's development for Deuce. It's development for everybody, for that second unit. Cam was 3 of 10, 1 of 6 from the 3-point land, 3 of 4 from the 3-throw line. He had 10 points. He was all right. He had his moments. He got beat really bad on a backdoor in the fourth quarter. I mean, really bad, like rookie bad. I don't know. He probably needs to run 30 games to get the maximum out of him. I don't know if he's going to get it, though. So we're going to see what happens. I don't know. That's Thibs' call. But he got good run last night with Derrick Rose sitting, with Grimes sitting. He got good run. Cam played 21 and a half minutes. He played 21 and a half minutes last night. So, they got some good run. And again, they played most of the fourth quarter. So Mathurin, of course, I'm not surprised, obviously. I wanted the Knicks to get him. But Mathurin, went off last night. He was really causing problems. And this is the thing, in a Thibs defense, he had 27. He was tough. I knew he was going to be. But the thing about a Thibs defense is this. The key with Thibs defense is to not allow people to get in the paint. Because he believes, and I'm just saying, and I'm not saying he's wrong, but I'm saying once you allow somebody to get in the paint, they got all kinds of issues they're going to cause. They can shoot or they can spray it out. So he wants to protect the paint from penetration, Mathurin was getting into the paint, most of the time. Most of the time he was getting in the paint when he wanted to, and that's caused a lot. That's part of the reason they came back. He was killing, and then Nemhard was killing last night. He was shooting the lights out last night, and then this other guy came off the bench, Bitadze, and he was shooting, and they hit big shots in the fourth quarter to help them win the basketball game. But it was Mathurin that was the engine that was really driving that run they made in the fourth quarter, ending up with 27 points. Again, I'm not surprised. I told you this kid's going to be a stud, and he's going to be a stud. Indiana is not going to be a bad team. They got a good team. I know they were trying. I don't say I know, but there were rumors they were trying to trade Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, but they got a pretty good team. If they keep their squad like this, they're in pretty good shape. And then they got some good supporting cast in Tice, James Johnson, and Langston Galloway, former Knick. So they, I like their squad. And like I said, they came at us to win last night, like it was a regular season game. It was all up and rah and all in it. And we were just business-like, and I like that. So when the regular season comes, we'll meet again. We'll meet again. So this Friday is the Washington Wizards, the final preseason game. And, it's going to be interesting to see how Thibs uses Grimes in that scenario. If somebody else needs rest, we'll see. But it's the final preseason game. I expect him to play his starters like he did last night. And then give the bench a chance to develop some more. Maybe with Grimes in that unit, maybe instead of Cam. We'll see. But in the meantime, y'all be safe out there. Enjoy your Thursday. Don't be too upset about this game. It was a learning experience for the second unit. Don't be too mad at Thibs. He was doing what some of us been calling him to do for a minute. Develop the young players. Shalom.